Good morning. My name is Ramakrishna Aduri, and today I want to discuss on an important topic like how to write the script of a good speech. And there are many speakers, and they know all the nuances of speaking, eye contact, voice, modulation, and everything of that kind. But very important of all those things, more important one is writing a good speech, the good preparation. And when is a speech boring? You all are familiar with that. Of course, when you are not prepared, the speech is naturally very boring. And when you don't wear your dress appropriate for the occasion, and speech can be boring and when you don't look at the audience, when you don't maintain the eye contact, the speech can be boring And many times we see when the language is not clear, a sloppy language, and you use some kind of fillers there, and you apologize several times during the speech, and that can be very boring to the audience. Sometimes you give a presentation which has got a lot of infographics and figures and all that, and you show them, you don't explain them. And that can be boring to the people, those who can't understand from your graphic display there. And sometimes we also see that there's some matter which is relevant, which is irrelevant, okay, and no way connected to your topic and all that, and that can be boring for them. And sometimes we see people, they give a presentation and they read slides, and that's not interesting because the audience, they also can read the slides. The purpose of giving a speech is not reading the slides there. And sometimes you give some slides which where you have your handwriting is not legible actually, and the slides are very ugly and they're not presented well. Even that can be very boring to the people, and that creates a kind of ennui to them. The next important point is that first you organize your presentation. There are many ways of doing it. Okay, where are you standing, where are you positioning yourself and all that, how is your PA system placed and things of that kind. Of course, how you are going to organize the presentation, that's very important. You can be at a place where you are seen by all the people, and audio system is working very well, and there is some amount of clarity for that. And most important part of the speech is something you develop a purpose actually, determine the reason, why are you speaking. And that is very, very important. Of course, general purposes you all are familiar. Sometimes you want to inform the people, sometimes you want to persuade the people on a particular topic, and you want to entertain them. That can be your crux of the story. And sometimes you want to inspire the people. So you should think of finding out the purpose why you are speaking, the purpose of speaking. Sometimes there can be a specific purpose. Okay, and it can be you should know it's very much related to your specialization and all that. There's a specific purpose why you are there and all that. And you should know that after listening to your speech completely, what do you expect from the audience? If you don't know the purpose, don't start writing your speech straight away. And therefore, you should know what your audience expect from this speech. You should know the purpose, and then you can start writing your speech. And therefore, purpose of a speech is very much essential before you start writing the speech. You're all familiar with the TED speeches. Okay, and TED speeches are all categorized. You all know that sometimes they're beautiful speeches, they talk about the courageous speeches, sometimes they're very funny, and there are many times, of course, ingenious and inspiring speeches you have, and some speeches they're really fascinating, and but some of them are jaw-dropping, and several times we see speeches which are persuasive in nature. And therefore, when you write a speech, if you have a specific purpose about it, and that should be informed to the audience very categorically before you make a beginning. And if you just inform them, okay, when you write, a speech, so, and also when you speak, you inform your audience that you are going to speak on a particular topic, so the audience must be aware of what exactly you are talking, and therefore it is imperative now that you must tell the purpose. You must specify the purpose actually, like. And the second thing is, you should know like what is that you are expecting actually, like, at the end when you're going to give the conclusion, generally you revise it. You say that, so what? Okay, the so what aspect has to be kept in mind when you are preparing the speech actually, like. So it can be recognizing the benefits, it can be understanding the differences when you are trying to compare two things there, and sometimes they have to gain better knowledge about a particular thing, and those things have to be informed to the audience. And when you make a presentation, it is essential for you put them in writing when you prepare the speech. So when you are persuading them, say for example your speech is all about the persuasion that you are doing, like you can tell them, okay, believe that this is wrong. You are trying to persuade them, and you write your points very clearly to substantiate your claim actually. And let's all agree to this one, because this is, you're trying to persuade them, of course, and you want to change their minds like about a particular idea, like you want to bring some attitudinal change. So in all the cases when you're trying to persuade the people, first write it down, of course, some points which substantiate, which strengthen your claim there. Okay, and you just take them, you have a flow chart, take them from one level to the next level. Ultimately, you make them arrive at a conclusion which is in your favor. And sometimes your speech is just to deliver. There's nothing like very specific about it, and it can be impromptu speech. You were given topic just a little before. We also call it extempore. You call it sometimes. Like you don't have a lot of time for the preparation and all that. And in some cases, what you do is that when you are giving a speech, it's a delivery. Like what is that you are doing? You brought a manuscript. You start reading that. Okay, and that's not effective actually, like. And sometimes many people we see, they memorize the speech. It is easy for you to understand what they are saying. Is it, say, without any preparation, with a little preparation, impromptu or extempore, or it can be a manuscript, or it can be a memorized speech and all that. These are the delivery methods. Okay, and the next one is when you have a speech, when you are writing a speech, that speech has got essentially 3 parts. You're all familiar with that. You start with an introduction. Okay, it can be by any way. You can tell a poem, you can tell a story, you can talk about an anecdote, and you can give a quotation there. You can sing a song if you want. And this is all you begin your speech to create an interest in your audience. That's the introduction part. Then the next part, which is rather lengthy, is your body. Like, what is the main content, what is the theme, and what is that moving around, the gist of that, and the synopsis of your speech. And it is all about the important points you have, and that is the body of your speech. And finally, the most important one, people take what is given at the end. Okay, ultimately, like when you're closing your speech, when you're drawing a conclusion there, and make sure that you tell them something very clearly, like what you are expecting them. Okay, and what you are anticipating from them. It can be for the cognitive development, sometimes it can be attitudinal change sometimes, or it's maybe like some kind of skill building when you give a demonstration to them. And let us see the flow chart, how it goes actually. Like you just open, okay, with your introduction, as I told you. Like the next important point is that tell them what you're going to tell, because don't keep them confused, don't keep them in dark what they're going to hear the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is. Tell them what you're going to tell them, because this is how you reveal your contents very, very briefly. Like, so this is what I mean by introduction. And now you tell them what you're going to tell them, and now you tell them, and later it is important for you to elicit the idea from them, what they've understood, their perspectives, and probably rather you want to revise once again, so that some reinforcement takes place, and so that some kind of it gets registered in their minds. Tell them what you have told, and finally you close it. There are 3 important steps, of course, the intermediate steps. Tell them what you're going to tell, and tell them what you have told. and then you can go for your conclusion. And this is a 5-step strategy for most of you. You introduce, start, opening, warm up, or whatever it is. Just make a beginning. And many people, they just turn on, even with your introduction, the way you start your speech probably can draw the attention. And the next one is the body. And in this body, you tell what you're going to tell, and tell them what you've told. This is for the revision, the last one. And then you can go for your conclusion. And start and finish, the introduction and the conclusion must be so effective. And they should not occupy much time, of course. It's only 20% of the time that is stipulated for the complete speech. It's a vitally important how you begin and how you close there. And mind you, you should help your listeners to form impressions early, okay. So when you introduce your topic, and your audience is going to form an impression about it, what is going to happen, and that is the help you get. And when you can really draw their attention, of course, when they're listening to you, and they pay attention, because if they feel that there is something that is interesting for them, something that is important for them, something that they're going to learn from your speech, and something is going to happen really, and definitely they pay attention, and therefore help listeners form impressions early. But mind you, the impression should be long lasting, not that you have made a big impression and started and ultimately it just went down and all that. So you have to sustain that interest for as long as you're delivering your speech. So what is essential there is that leave lasting impressions. It's not just the first impression. First impression is okay. You have created an ambience that really is going to work. But the best thing is the impression must stay longer. So lasting impressions are very, very important. So what does the introduction do? There are 4 basic functions. And it is fundamentally to get the attention of the people. Even when you write your script, this part is so essential that you are telling them, of course, the first one, get the audience attention. How are you going to do it? It can be a startling fact. It can be, as I told you, a quotation. It can be a poem or anything. You can ask them a question and tell them a short story and use a quote. And sometimes it can be a relevant joke. And in the introduction part only, state your thesis or proposition. But I want to tell you here like this, at least one sentence. Why are you relevant? Why your presence there is going to make some difference to them. Okay, and it's not like your research topic and all that, but something that your presence is relevant there. Establish this relation between the topic and yourself, like that you are an authenticity about talking about that. So that gives you your position actually, and therefore this part has to be done. And the next one is, as I told you, see, once you have established that you're the relevant person, naturally the audience also will think that you're an authentic person, and you have to think that they think that you are credible there, and your authority on the topic, and why you have chosen the particular topic, and why is it important for those people there. And if you have any experience on this particular topic, probably you can tell them that this is like my cup of tea, and therefore I am embarking on doing this and all that. And about the main points, this should happen in the introduction itself, about the main points, you have a preview, so directly state or list 3 or 5 main points actually, very briefly, that you're planning to make. So 3 to 5 points, of course, you just tell them, these are the things I'm going to discuss today. Okay, it should be a clear list, and it should correspond to exactly with your main points. So your introduction itself should create an interest. Therefore, pick up a few points. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to learn about these things today. And so this is important for you. You are citing those, like 3 to 5 points there. And this introduction is an attention getter. Okay, that after your introduction, and definitely they just expect something from you, and you are trying to reveal your thesis, the research you've done on the topic, and your experience you're adding, and you have got so many main points you have to cover and all that, and you also have to talk about the credibility part, of course, and how the audience should trust you on that topic, and the preview. And this is what you have in your introduction. So introduction has essentially 4 things, like it's an attention getter. It talks about your thesis and why it's relevant for you, and the credibility, the authenticity and all that. And it establishes the credibility part of it, that you are the right person to talk about that. And finally, it gives a preview to them. And when you develop a speech, and you should think of, like all 5 wives and 1 husband, they say. And developing the speech, remember, it's all about answering a few questions. I repeat my statement. Developing the speech and writing a script is all about answering a few questions. Which are the questions that you have to answer? Like, the first one is, what is it? And second one is, when? And the third one is, where? And fourth one is, why? And the next one is, who? So what, when, where, why and who, if you can answer, probably your speech is going with a good flow and all that. And mind you, don't forget the husband, how. So remember this strategy, 5 wives and 1 husband is all about answering the fundamental questions about the topic you are dealing with. The next one is, there are some simple sequences that you should remember when you're writing your story, when you're writing your script. Generally, it is all about the chronological sequence. Okay, day-wise, what has happened, you are chronicling the things and all that. And date-wise, you are putting them in order and you are telling them the historical perspectives. Sometimes it can be step by step. Take them, this is step 1, step 2, step 3 and all that. And it also means a sense when you're talking about some historical things, and and you can talk about the spatial sequence. Okay, let me cover this one, is all the visual impact you can think of having there. Sometimes you can paired sequences you can have. You connect this and that, you connect this and that, you can pair them. And you also can have a topical sequence. Okay, let me take up topic number 1, topic number 2, topic number 3 and all that. And sometimes it can be the perspective based. You take the same topic, tell how people respond to it differently, and you're talking about their perspectives, and otherwise you can just simply, the property sequence also you can have. And therefore, when you are presenting your speech, you can think of a right sequence based on the topic. It can be chronological, it can be step by step, it can be spatial, it can be paired, it can be topical, it can be perspective based, or it can be simply property based actually. And when you are talking about, say for example, I take one of them, like chronological sequence, you just tell them like the background and the hypothesis, the experimental methods and all that, the data and analysis and some discussion there, and conclusions. This is like a scientific method. You put them the historical perspectives in, like step by step. So this is how it has developed. This is how it has grown. Suppose even if you are talking about, say, the structure of atom, okay, in a speech, you just tell them how it all began and how it's developed and who are all the people who have contributed and all that. And a chronological sequence is really good for you to bring it from that level to the latest what is happening about the atom. And similarly, you have other sequences like step by step, spatial, paired sequences, topical ones and perspective based sequences, sorting by property sequences and all that. And now we are thinking of transitions. Like this is very, very important. See, when you are delivering a speech, you are talking about several things and connecting these things. You can't simply say, come on, point number 2. It's not that you move from like point number 1 to point number 2. There must be a seamless transition here. And therefore, when you're shifting the speech from one point to another point, and provide a brief recap about what you discussed in point number 1 and gradually take it to point number 2. People should feel that there is a smooth transition when you're shifting the speech from one, like a paragraph to another paragraph. So even when you write the script, it is essential for you, all these points you're going to talk about, you put in different paragraphs and make sure that before you switch over to another point, you just, talk briefly about what you covered in, say, point number 1. And verbally state every transition clearly. whenever you feel that it is a big transition, a completely you are changing from one idea to another idea, it is essential for you to understand that you are changing from one topic to another topic, and therefore you tell them verbally that yes, here I am shifting from this point to this point and all that. And these are not, like the subtle things and all that, there are some transitions where it's very vivid that you're dealing with a different topic and all that. And when you come to the conclusion, okay, and you just are going to form a lasting impression. So you can see this, so you have understood this one, and to conclude, I want this, and what is that you are feeling about it. I think you're going to assimilate what is told here and all that. And it is important for you. You have a message which they can carry home or retain, and forever and ever they should remember your speech. And therefore, in the conclusion part, you just summarize the points again. Okay, first I told you about this, later I told you about this, and I explained this. This is point number 3, and draw their attention to all the points you have covered, because some of them may not be attentive all the time if it's a lengthy speech. And give your conclusion and give them a memorable thought and all that. And for the effective conclusion, never end your speech abruptly. Suddenly you don't say drop. Okay, this is a very, very important. And there is a smooth sail, and give your conclusion which is very, very clear and very categorically true. And there's no question of rambling there. And that's an important point there. And in your conclusion part, you never talk about new points. All the points which you discussed, they will come there. Don't announce your conclusion unless you mean it. Many people, I say, this is my last point, this is my last point, and several times they keep on saying that I don't take much of your time, but that's really ridiculous in fact. And don't introduce new points, but try to take all the points which you have discussed to a logical conclusion, and never apologize. It's not necessary for you. And taking long time or for their attention, you can just thank them. You can say that thank you very much. This I am going to conclude, and give them a message that makes an indelible impression on their mind, and that is so good for you. And that part, the lasting impression, they carry it, and therefore, and that is very, very important.